RFK Jr. exceeds expectations, again. Polls 22% in three-way against Trump and Biden. I caught some shit the last time I used that quote at Armageddon Prose because I attributed it to Michelle Pfeiffer's character in Scarface, when apparently she was modifying an Oscar Wilde quote. Nothing succeeds like excess. Whatever. I never claimed to be overly cultured. RFK Jr., ceaselessly ridiculed and sidelined in the corporate state media, has certainly delivered on that ethos. He, and, more importantly, the message he champions, simply won't go away, via Quinnipiac. Time equals 400 Ms. greater than, when the hypothetical 2024 general election matchup broadens to include environmental lawyer and anti-vaccine activist Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who is running as an independent candidate. Biden receives 39% support. Trump receives 36% support. And Kennedy receives 22% support. Time equals 400 Ms. greater than among independents, 36% support Kennedy, 31% support Trump, and 30% support Biden. Asterisk note the tired, anti-vaccine activist smear in Quinnipiac's framing of who RFK Jr. is and what his campaign is about, despite the fact that his position on vaccines A. isn't total opposition and B. is a tiny fraction of what issues he discusses. These mainstream outlets are seemingly contractually obligated by their pharmaceutical sponsors to repeat the anti-vaxxer talking point whenever they mention RFK Jr.'s name. Since RFK Jr. fled the Democrat plantation and went independent, there has much speculation by mainstream pundits in the service of the duopoly regarding from whose camp, Trump's or Biden's, RFK Jr. will draw more support. Often, the speculation is framed in terms such as RFK Jr. stealing votes from Biden or Trump, etc. When Trump or Biden lose, partisans from their respective camps are going to blame RFK Jr. right away as a means of coping with their failure. We saw this play out with Green Party candidate Jill Stein following Hillary's historic loss in 2016 and 100 other elections over time. Let's clear this narrative mess up preemptively. It's not RFK Jr.'s job to get Joseph Brandon or Donald Trump, or anyone else, elected. That's the candidate's responsibility, and when he falls short, it will be his fault. I hope nothing but failure for the Brandon entity and its handlers, so I won't bother giving them any advice. This is for the other side. If MAGA hopes to retake the White House in 2024, Trump's going to need all the help he can get, which includes attracting RFK Jr.'s supporters. Time equals 400 Ms. greater than for one thing. He needs to cease immediately bragging about Operation Warp Speed, his disastrous pharmaceutical gravy train scam to get Pfizer and Modern's vaccines approved in record time. That is clearly, in retrospect, as it should have been at the time, a total disaster from a true public health perspective. Trump further needs to get real about how he's going to pursue COVID justice against the likes of Anthony Fauci. Pointless hearings in the Congress aren't going to cut it anymore. Those are fine, but people need to go to prison. We as free people need to get to these people criminally before they're allowed to die of natural causes, free and rich. Time equals 400 Ms. greater than second. Trump needs to get serious about how he's going to #drain the swamp. Specific steps to purge every federal agency of its deep state minions and remove them from public service once and for all. Tossing out red meat rhetoric along these lines at rallies, similarly, isn't going to work any longer to turn out the base. Time equals 400 Ms. greater than. This is what RFK Jr. supporters want, and it's not overly complicated. The clock is ticking on Trump's political viability. Let's see what he can do to get RFK Jr. supporters on board. Guaranteeing him a prominent cabinet spot, such as Attorney General. He's a lawyer after all. With a blank check to rain legal hell on the deep state would be an excellent start. Time equals 400 Ms. greater than. Ben Barty, author of Broken English Teacher, Notes from Exile, is an independent Bangkok-based American journalist with opposable thumbs, Insta tip jar and Bitcoin public address. BC1QVQ4HGNX3EUO9E0 square meters KK5UANXNM8LJFMPEFWAV My Plan B Blueprint. To become anti-fragile, the US and US dollar are clearly deteriorating. And there is a lot of danger in having too much exposure to a crumbling empire. That is why I have a plan B, which has allowed me to, and much more. Time equals 400 ms, greater than a plan B gives you the tools to respond to whatever the world throws at you from a position of strength.